Hey people, sorry, we had our power go out, so we just got our power back on. Jim Bob, are you here? I can go ahead and invite you. I am here. As soon as you pop on, let me know, and I can add you. Let's see. Actually, I think I can add you. Jim Bob. Jim Hag. Trust. Okay, Jim, are you there? There you are. Okay. Let me go ahead, invite. Something new, y'all. Super, super excited. Woohoo! First time to do a split screen live on Facebook.
Hey, hey.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm really happy that this is working because our power
Me
went
too.
out. Like,
Oh, geez.
yeah. I'm not sure what happened. I think a tree fell down or something over here, but let me introduce you. I may jump in here and there, but I'm Dr. Sharnael Wolverton. I'm with Swiftfire, and this here is Jim Bob Haggerton. He's also
Hello.
a doctor, and he has a lovely wife and a bunch of kids. I'll let him explain all that. But tonight's topic is not only on hormones and stress, but we're going to go into some supplements too. And I'm just so honored and blessed to have him here with us tonight, and thank you so much for being with us. I know you guys are super busy and you have tons of people to take care of all the time, but we're so glad that you came to be with us just for this little hour to kind of give us some new education and new perspective on health naturally.
Well, I am excited to be here. So, jump in, Sharnael, as I go. If you want me to go a different direction or whatever, I'm all about like by the seat of my pants stuff. It drives my wife crazy, but I'm like, dude, let's just do it and not have notes. And she's like, no. She's like, let's not do that. So this is awesome for me. So if you need to stop me or whatever, let's do it. And if you guys have questions as we go, let's do it. You know, I love talking about hormones because I feel like it's one of the health topics that people get the most confused about, and that they give away their power of choosing for themselves what's the best avenue for their health because they just don't understand it. And I totally get it. And so the thing I'm super passionate about, just like Sharnael, is like giving you information back to where you can go, you know what? I know how my hormones work, and that artificial testosterone you're offering me, or that artificial estrogen, or that, IUD, or whatever the thing is that they're offering you, telling you that it's going to fix all, goes against everything that my body is created to do. And so I'm going to like high five you, thank you. And then I'm going to try this over here because that's just not how the body's made. Now, like before we get into it and stuff, like it's not to say that there's not interventions and there's not medical interventions. There's not sometimes that artificial hormones are necessary because you're in enough of a pit that you need a little bit of a foot up. And that happens, but it just goes against physiology. So I teach on it a ton and I like it. I think it's because, I'm a guy and I'm a dude, and it's like my quest to figure women out. I think that's it. Like, I think it's my, like, I'm going to figure them out. And then my wife's like, boom, curveball. And I'm like, dang it, back to the physiology textbook. You know what I mean? And she just, like, blows by me. But I do have an amazing bride, Cindy. She's also a chiropractor. We practiced together let's see, when she got out of school, we practiced together for about 5 or 6 years before we started having kids. And then she is blessed to be able to stay home with them when I was practicing full time the last couple of years because of Young Living and because of the abundant side of that. And so she was able to do that and stay with all of our awesome kiddos. We have 5 kids. Harper is our oldest. He's 8. And he definitely thinks he knows everything. So when in doubt, I just ask him, and because obviously like this kid's a genius. And so he's 8 years old and has already conquered the world. Our second is Ellie. She's 6 years old, and she's incredible and funny and feisty. And basically, in all ways, if you're like, man, I wonder what Jimbo would be like as a 6-year-old girl, it's her. And so that's kind of scary. Like, she doesn't have a beard, so that's good. I'm proud of her for that. But she's crazy and awesome and super fiery, and so I just keep stoking that fire. Our third child, Evans, was born. He would have been 2 years old. He was born June 14th of 2014. Unfortunately, he had a genetic mutation, and we only got to have him and hold him for 2 hours, and then he passed away. So he would have been 2. And then fast forward almost a year, we found out we were pregnant with Witten, who is our youngest. We come back from vacation. We're like, we're pregnant. Woo, woo. It's awesome. And then we get a letter to adopt a baby locally because we were in the process of adopting anyway. And they sent us an email. They're like, hey, we have a baby, a local baby that's up for adoption. Are you guys down? We're like, heck yes, we are. Send all the babies. And so he was born 3 days later. We signed papers on him 2 days after that. So he and Witten are 7 months apart. We got Tate, and then I had him the whole time since he was pregnant. And then she delivered Witten 7 months later. So, yeah, like Sharnael said, I'm bored, and I sit around all day long, and I got nothing to do. But the thing I love to do more than anything is talk physiology and talk function and health and all that stuff. So, that's what we're going to get into tonight on that. So, there you go. Sharnael, anything from you before I dive into some of the hormone stuff?
Okay. You dive away. Go ahead. I'm here.
Okay, perfect. All right, so with hormones, there's a couple of key things that I want you to walk away from on this. Hormones can be scary and confusing and this big mess of all this stuff going on. Don't worry about all that. I want you to forget what you've ever been told and what you've ever been taught on hormones, ever, for that matter. Because I'm going to teach you kind of where they start briefly, and I'm going to teach you the most important thing for building up your hormones that most people are deficient in anyways. Hey, Janie, what's up, West Texas friend? I'm going to teach you that real fast. We're going to go through it, and then I'm going to teach you the main things that will break it down, that will tear down your hormones faster than anything else under the sun. And so the thing that I like to do, my passion is in giving you really hardcore physiological info, like here's how the body works. Because just like scripture, Sharnael and I share a whole love of scripture. And if something doesn't match up to the Bible, it's wrong, period. Like, it doesn't matter what the person's specialty is. It doesn't matter what they're good at. It doesn't matter what they tell you. If you go, man, that sounds so legit. And then you go look it up and you're like, that's not what the scripture says. They're wrong, like, period. And that's just how it works. Well, in the body is created perfectly. And so everything has to go back to physiology or it's wrong. Like, for example, the What the Health documentary that came out. There's a lot of documentaries out there. There's a lot of stuff, lots of information getting thrown around that is partial truths mixed with political agendas, mixed with crazy lies, like crazy non-physiological lies, coated with really big truths. And so the only way that you know whether something's really legit or not is if you know physiology. And so you just got to go back to it and understand basics. You don't have to be crazy about it. You don't have to be a physiologist, but you got to understand basics of how the body works so that you can go, that doesn't make sense. That's all you need to know. I had a professor in grad school that for the first whole semester, well, wasn't that? It was the first whole, till the first test. It was radiology. It was a class where we were trying to figure out things that were wrong, like find tumors and stuff like that, right? Well, it was completely acceptable for him. On the test, there was a selection that says that's jacked up on the test. And he said that is a completely okay answer until the first test. And then after that, we had to know what it was. And we had to tell him the top 4 things that could possibly be on x-ray and what to do with them. Well, for you guys, I'm fine with you being at the that's jacked up or that doesn't go with physiology forever because, like, it's not in your wheelhouse to understand every intricacy of how the kidney works or how the pituitary gland works or how the ovary works and things like that. No, understanding the overall basis on how it functions is key, right? So jumping right into it and diving into like the actual like way that hormones are formed, all of your hormones actually start in your brain, which surprises most people. Most people are like, oh man, my hormones are off. And I'm going to generalize 2 ways, but I'm going to mainly talk to the women because I know on here it's probably 99.9% women on this call. But all of you guys know dudes or are married to a dude. And so I'm going to speak to them at the end for a minute. And then I'll answer questions on it because guys are just less fancy. But the way that they're produced, the way the hormones are produced is the same, right? So let's take any awesome lady that I see or that I do a consult with. They come in, they're like, oh man, my hormones are so jacked up. I want to break people in half and I keep ripping doors off the hinges. And it's awful, and they do the thing. They go, my ovaries are so broken. I'm like, nope, they're probably not. They actually might be working really well because there's a lot of other steps in the pathway before that organ actually produces estrogen for you. So the first step, the first starting point of all of your hormone production is your hypothalamus. Okay, so it's way up here in the brain. I call it Happy the hypothalamus. And so Happy sits up there and his job or her job is to send down what we call releasing factors. So there's like gonadotrophic, releasing hormone, or there's thyroid releasing hormone, and it sends out these releasing factors, and it sends them over to the next guy in this little assembly line called Pete, the pituitary gland. So, Happy goes, hey man, like she needs more estrogen, so I'm going to send over this GnRH hormone, and I want you to make more estrogen. And Pete's like, dude, I got this, but I ain't your guy to make the hormone. I'm going to tell the organs what to do. And so Pete, the pituitary gland, goes, dude, I'm all over this. And he sends down FSH and LH, two hormones that you've heard of. You just have no idea what they do, which is totally fine. You see them on tests. You're like, and you do like this with your doctor. And you don't even know, right? It's cool. I tell people all the time, I'm like, you don't have to fake with me. Like, it's cool if you don't know, because I didn't know once either, and I had to figure it out. So just go, I don't have a clue what that is, and let them explain it to you if they can. But it sends down LH and FSH, and it starts the release of estrogen from the ovaries, all right? And this happens with every hormone. It happens with progesterone. It happens with cortisol. It happens with adrenocorticotropic hormone, the ACTH that comes from your adrenal glands that helps you handle stress, right? All the hormones, your thyroid hormones, T3 and T4, all of them are told to be released by the pituitary gland after he is encouraged to do his job by Happy the hypothalamus, okay? So here's where it comes in, and like the number one, like I'm going to give you two main, it kind of links together, but two main things that'll tear down your hormone pathway. The first one is mental and emotional stress, like period. Like Sharnael teaches on this and preaches on this. I just say I preach all the time because Sharnael, you do too. So I'm like teaching and preaching. It's the same thing. Like it's all mixed. But she teaches on this all the time about how your emotions play into your health. And people are always like, so let's go get some ice cream, and they do it to me too. And they go, hey, but more because I think they don't understand how vitally important it really is, or the emotional and mental stressors that they're in feel like a trap and feel like an iron vault that they can't get out of. So they're like, why am I going to even try? I'm just going to like suck it up because I'd rather just like coast and eat foods I like or do things or whatever it is, and just like make it through, right? Well, here's the deal with emotional stress, period. The amygdala is the organ that sits right in the middle of your brain that handles all of your emotion. It's called the seat of all of your emotion, right? Now, it handles all of your emotion, but it is primed and it is freaked out and it is pushed over the edge by stress, by negative emotion, by like negative things. Like, when I had the injury back in March, like for those of you guys who don't know, I'm like sitting here with my giant scar on my leg, and I'm going into a restaurant tonight to get my salad on a walker, the one time I'm not in my wheelchair because I shattered a leg in Orlando. Well, that was traumatic. Like, in that negative emotional stress, especially when they walked in, they were like, sir, there is a black spot on your leg. And we go, tumor. And there was a benign tumor in my femur, and that's why it broke. We're like, okay, like this is a bigger deal than we thought. Negative stress, major emotional stress for hours and hours and hours and hours on end. What that does is it charges that organ, and that organ is touching, literally is like right up next to your pituitary gland. Like they literally share a wall. And so doctors will say all the time, stress doesn't really affect your hormones. Bull. Show me one woman who isn't stressed during the month who doesn't have a jacked up menstrual cycle. None. There's not one woman that is stressed out or doesn't have a supportive husband or is in an abusive relationship or is in a job she hates or has a wayward kid that they're freaking out, whatever it is, whatever major stressor. Show me a woman like that, and I'll show you a woman whose hormones are completely off the charts and whose adrenal glands are completely in the gutter, and they don't feel like there's a way out. Every time, like 100 times out of 100. And I do testing a ton now for women to figure it out, only because now I enjoy and I appreciate the benefit of them seeing the results. I don't really need to see the result at all to know what's going on with them and know what's happening and what to do, because I've seen so many women over the last 15 years of doing nutrition and hormone balancing and teaching and traveling and studying and blah, 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 and mentoring under all these people that I'm like, this is your problem. This is what's going on. This is what the hormone's doing. And I can almost tell you what their labs will say. But the testing and stuff is important because then you can say, yep, here's the level. And it's not even so much that you go, yep, I'm jacked up. It's, hey, there's my starting point. And then when the hormone, let's say the hormone's down here in the basement, and you do some specific work and you use your essential oils correctly and you use supplements and stuff like that to really support your body, then the next couple of tests you go in, and you're like, I don't really know if I'm feeling way better, and then your hormones are 20 points higher where they should be. Boom, that's major progress. You just may not feel it, right? So that's really important. So stress is really key. Emotional stress is key. And the thing that I say all the time is either change the stress or change your brain about it. So the only way that you can really make sure that that stressor, whatever it is, I mean, to be totally honest, like, you know, I was the husband 5 years ago that was the like emotionally abusive jerk husband that was sending Cindy into adrenal fatigue. So let's say that I'm that guy, and let's say that it's that scenario. If you can't change the situation, you got to change your brain about the situation. That's what she did. Like you got to go, okay, I'm in this job, and if I can't get out of it, or if I'm not in a position to leave it, then I've got to change my brain about it, and I got to really, that whole like put on the armor of God. It's not because like the whole like putting on the armor of God every day is not because you're going to play golf every day. Like you're going, like think about gladiator beatdown every single day. It's just you don't feel it because it's not physical, and it's way more emotional, and it's way more mental. And then at the end of 15, 20 years, and you've got all these different lifestyle diseases, and you can't figure out why, but you've been in this horrible stress for 15, 20 years, and you're like, I don't really know how this happened. Of course you do, right? And so it's just on all of us to be able to change it, or, again, change our brain about it, journal about it, or, like, do emotional freedom technique sessions about it, whatever you have to do to change that pathway, okay? And you can remodel it. All right, so we've got through the brain, and the brain sends down the signals and tells the body what to do. Now, the two organs that are responsible for kind of balancing all your hormones, like, they don't really make sure all the levels are perfect, but they try to make sure that your levels aren't, like, completely wacko, right? Are your adrenal glands and your thyroid gland. Now, that's really nice of them, and it's really noble, but they never signed up for the kind of stress that you put them under, like, ever. Like, you know, Abe, the adrenal gland, was like, dude, if I'd have known this was coming down, I wouldn't have got off the bench, because I had no idea, like, that this is what was going to happen. Because when you stress, like when you're going through major stress during the day, the adrenal gland is the gland that goes, dude, man, they're going through stress. I need to help her with that. I need to help him with that. And so that organ pumps in cortisol, it pumps in epinephrine, it pumps in norepinephrine, so that you can go, we got this, we can do this, and you get all amped up. You know, when you get all like, come on, that's your adrenal glands firing into your system and turning on this switch in your brain called your fight or flight, right? To tell your body that you need to either get the heck up and out or fight it off, whatever the heck is going on, so you can handle it. Now, here's the issue. Cortisol is a hormone. You could write this down. Cortisol is a hormone that is called a catabolic hormone. Okay. Catabolic hormone, there's two types of hormones in the body: hormones that build and hormones that tear down. Okay. Hormones that build are called anabolic, you know, like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Those are anabolic hormones. Cortisol, insulin, these are catabolic, and they tear things down if they're in there for longer or for out of balance, or the levels aren't where they need to be, right? So leaving cortisol in the body, or you getting way too much cortisol over years, when it's designed to last for like 60 seconds. Like it's literally designed for the amount of time it took for me to break my leg back in March. But then after that, it wasn't supposed to be stressed the entire time. It was supposed to be like, whoa, that was close. All right, Harper, let's go surf again, blah, 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 right? Like that's what's supposed to happen. But in our daily lives, like we get up in the morning and it's like, me stress all day long, from the time the alarm goes off to the time you go to bed, right? For most people, and that's pretty reality. Well, long-term cortisol like that is a catabolic hormone, and what it does is it will literally tear down your muscle tissue. Your heart has a lot of muscle in it. It'll tear down the heart wall. It tears down your immune defenses. It'll weaken the bones. It'll damage your hormone pathway. It literally creates a phenomenon. You could write this down too, because the emotional stress and then this cortisol is two of the main things, and I'm going to help you balance it all out, right? If cortisol is in there for a long period of time, there's a phenomenon that happens called pregnenolone steal. Just put preg steal. Not pregnancy steal. That would be awkward. But pregnenolone steal. Now, in the pathway of all your hormones, I don't have my trusty PowerPoint right here. I got a stop sign. So stop stressing. There you go. But I don't have my PowerPoint, and I have like a whole graph that I freak people out with on it. But here's what happens. So when you look at the pathway, the starting point, the starting hormone, I'm going to tell you the real starting point of the hormones in a minute, but the starting hormone in the entire pathway is pregnenolone, okay? It's actually produced by your adrenal glands on top of other organs. pregnenolone, then the chart goes down and it goes to the left and to the right, or to the left and to the right, whatever. And it produces, on the left side, it goes into testosterone, estrogen, and DHEA. The right side, it goes to progesterone, cortisol, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Now, the only thing you need to know is when you have chronic cortisol that's that high for that long, it literally takes pregnenolone, punches it in the stomach, and takes it out of that track. So there's the one whole step that's gone. It's like walking along, like I'm sitting here looking at this sidewalk, and the sidewalks are all built in big squares, right? Well, if you're walking along on a sidewalk and all of a sudden there was a giant square missing, like it's really hard to keep going down that pathway because there's a giant gap in the path you were supposed to go on. Well, that's what happens with really, really high cortisol, right? Now, the side effect of that over a long time is now you just have this whole spaghetti mess of hormones that starts going all over, and now you go get tested, and your thyroid's off because it's trying to react to the adrenals, and this is exactly how some of you guys feel, and then your estrogen's off, and then it's good, and then the testosterone's high, and now you're getting like hair on your face when you shouldn't, and then it goes down, then it goes off, and then your cycle's really heavy, and then it's not, and then it's here, and then your progesterone's high, and then they said it's not. And you're like, I don't even know what to do, like, because the testing is all over the place. And it's true. Like, that's what happens. Because the adrenal glands have to be worked on first in order for balance to ever happen. So one of the first organ systems that we'll talk about that I want you to support is the adrenal glands all the time, all day, every day, because that's one that pretty much every patient that walks in or calls me, I'm like, we're going to have to work on this. Because it's kind of like if you don't work on it, it's like not turning off the gas valve that's blowing fire into your house. And you're trying to like put the fire out, but you never turned off the reason why the fire is so hot to begin with. That makes sense? So it's like just turn off that fire for a little bit and support it, then rebuild the body, and you get better changes, right? So that's key. Now, here's the number one step to all of your hormones, and this is huge. And this is something that people just take totally lightly. And the What the Health documentary completely jacked this up again, and they go right back into the 70s. And it's the whole topic of cholesterol. So when you look at any hormone pathway, right, the very first step, so like right up here where my name is on my screen, right there is cholesterol. And then out of cholesterol, out of all that good cholesterol, it goes to pregnenolone, progesterone, DHEA, testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So the point of that is if you don't have really good fats in your system, if you don't have a really good cholesterol level, if you're on cholesterol lowering medication, if you're doing a diet that's driving your cholesterol down and you're not getting good fats and good amino acids and good fatty acids in your system, you cannot, it's impossible for you to balance hormones. Like, it'll never happen because you don't even have the building blocks. It's like, in this neighborhood right here, it's like them trying to build a house, and I come up and I take all the 2x4s and the nails away. And I go, well, finish up. And they're like, I don't have any 2x4s. I'm like, so? That's what we do when we go to the doctor, and we're like, well, fix me. And they're like, okay. And they give you meds because they really don't know what else to do. So they give you an artificial amount of that hormone because most of them don't understand function. It's not because they're bad people. They're awesome. It's just most of them don't understand function. It's not what they're taught. And secondly, they would rather change your lab than change your life because, let's be real, changing your life takes a lot more work and it's a lot more hand-holding, and they don't get paid for that by insurance. That's a completely different game, okay? So when you look at it like that right there, the cholesterol levels, getting good fats in is huge. So like Omega Gize, like we'll just mix in some supplements as we go through. Omega Gize is big for a couple reasons. One, it's got a really good quality fat in it, but two, it's got CoQ10 in it, okay? It's got some vitamin D, but it's not enough, so I don't even really tout that. I'm not like, hey, it's got vitamin D. I'm like, yeah, but you need more than that. So it's like, hey, yay that it's in there, but you need more, period, right? But on Omega Gize has CoQ10 in it, coenzyme Q10. And coenzyme Q10 is a massive antioxidant that's known for its help with rebuilding and helping heart wall, restructuring the heart, helping with circulation, helping with your blood supply, and helping with delivery of oxygen around the body to allow your body to heal and do what it needs to do really well, right? So that's a really big deal, and that's a good thing that's in the fats. Now, normal dosing on Omega Gize is like 3 to 4 a day, I think, and that's like a month supply or something like that. Honestly, if you had the ER points for it and you can afford it, I would double that. I mean, like I would tell you to take like 8 to 10 because you just need those fats. If you can't, great. See, look, Caroline takes 8 a day. Perfect. That's awesome because you're going to get more of the fats. literally, you cannot get too many of these fats like this. The only thing that might happen, which is going to be helpful anyway, is if you happen to eat too many omega-3 fats and you really overloaded, then you might actually get diarrhea. Like maybe, and maybe just a little bit, and it'd be easier to go to the bathroom. Okay, like that's not this huge deal, right? So, but that's very rare. But if you do, if you get like loose stools and it's like you're like, dude, I had to run to the bathroom, back off a little bit, right? So fish oil is really key. Fish oil is the first one that I would tell you about, and the first one I would say to look at to ensure that it's one of your baseline supplements that you stay on. Second thing that I would say that's really key is supporting the adrenal glands. So the ones for adrenal glands, supplement-wise, are either Endogize or Powergize, right? Like both of those are really great for supporting adrenal glands, Endogize and Powergize. Endogize came back in stock 2 days ago, I think. I don't know if it's still in, but it's back in stock. It's awesome. It really, really works. It's got ashwagandha and a bunch of like adaptogen herbs in it. It's also got tribulus in it, which is really great for helping to regulate estrogen levels. That's great. And so that's good. Powergize is very similar. It's just got like more tribulus and a couple other things in it. So, you know, the way herbs work, like I've had women ask me, you know, is that going to be too much for me? Like, am I going to, you know, grow giant biceps and grow a beard like you, that kind of deal? And I'm like, no, because adaptogen herbs work like adaptogen, like the essential oils. They're adaptogens. So what that means is for your body as a woman, the women watching this, the tribulus helps to stimulate normal testosterone production to what you need, not beyond what your body is actually going to make on its own. Like you're not going to, it's not like artificial hormone replacement therapy. Like hormone replacement therapy, they are like pounding you with testosterone or pounding you with estrogen, and it's artificial. So it'll drive your levels way off, and then you got to lower them, and then you got to raise them, and then you got to lower them. That's not going to happen with the herbs or the oils, right? The only one I will say, the only oil that I always caution people with is Progessence Plus, because Progessence Plus is not a true essential oil blend. It's a serum. Okay, so I'll talk about that in just a second and make sure that I do. Don't let me forget about that, but I'll come back to that one. Okay, so Endogize, Powergize, both great for adrenal support. Sulfurzyme is great for adrenal support. Multigreens is another one that's just good for your system, and the Melissa oil that's in it is really great for adrenal support because it's so restorative is a good word for it. The oils on that side, like for adrenal function, the number one oil that I recommend, literally, I don't know how we stay in stock on this because I seriously like have people, every single person I talk to is on this, literally, it's Endoflex.
I was just gonna get that. I was just gonna
Yeah,
say Endoflex.
Endoflex, like seriously, like I'm literally sound like a parrot all the time. Like they come to me and before they even open their mouth, I'm like, Endoflex, how much are you doing your Endoflex? They're like, I haven't even said anything. I'm like, I know, but you're stressed out and you're wearing sunshades inside. Like there's a lot of problems here. Like you need to support your adrenal glands. So, you know, here's a few ways that you would know if your adrenal glands are tired, right? So hormone wise, this can mimic a lot of like hormone imbalance. And so people will go balance their hormones out instead of just resetting their adrenal glands, and they miss a whole piece, right? It's also the reason why those of you who are menopause age or who have medically been sent into menopause because of surgery, this is why it's hell for you, because the adrenal glands are the organ that's supposed to help you go into that stage and supposed to keep you from having all of these symptoms and stuff because of the hormones that they produce and everything. So how would you even know if you had adrenal fatigue? Well, if it's really hard for you to get up in the morning, like if people have to throw water on you or have to drag you out of bed and you feel as tired when you wake up as when you went to bed, adrenal fatigue. If you have blood sugar issues and you get hangry around meals and you're like, dude, man, I've got to eat. I was with a bunch of guys this last weekend and a couple of the guys were like, dude, I need food or I'm going to freak out. I'm like, adrenal glands. If you walk outside and you're like, oh man, where's my sunshades? And you're like, dude, that's crazy. And you have to put your sunshades on, adrenal glands. If you walk outside and it's hot outside and you can barely stand it, and it's not because you work in an office and you never get outside, and you go out in the heat and you want to pass out and lay down and take a nap, adrenal glands. Like that's not normal, and it's firing too much cortisol. So those are just a few things. So yes, Endoflex, using that topically over the kidneys is a fantastic. Yes, ma'am.
I also want to add, not only do you not sleep well at night, but then you don't get up in the morning. And about like, you start to kind of wake up about 12 o'clock. And you may have like a little bit of energy for 2, 3, 4 hours, but then about 3, 4, you start to dive again and you go through the whole cycle again. The other thing that you can tell, a real key sign, is anything having to do with allergies or chronic sinus infections and that kind of stuff, when you hear about people who
Dark circles under their eyes, stuff like that. Yeah.
if you hear people who have like serious allergies or chronic sinus infections or mucus and different things like that, you can go to town and you know for sure that there's adrenal stuff. So a lot of times people get hooked on like Benadryl or pain medicine or anything to go to sleep because they just want to sleep, and sleep would help you heal anyway. But if you're not sleeping at night, then that affects the adrenals even more. And then when you get hooked on all that stuff, that doesn't help either. And then you can't wake up very good in the morning because you're so drugged up and it's synthetic, and that's a whole nother thing. But go back to what you were saying. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it is true. And it's a double whammy, and it's a double-edged sword, like Sharnael was saying, because you need to sleep and you can't stay awake, but you can't sleep well. Because then, like the ones that are the worst of this, they'll go to sleep because they can't hardly stand to stay awake. And it's just like, beating them down. But then when they go to sleep, they wake up like every hour to 2 hours or every 3 hours because they just, because the cortisol, the adrenal glands, the mind will not turn off. Because again, remember, when those glands freak out, that's your fight or flight. Well, when you go to bed, it doesn't just turn off. It's not like you turn off the light switch and your brain's like, oh, thank God. It doesn't do that. It's like, sick, and it's running through all this stuff, trying to make itself feel okay about how stressed it was during your day, even if you didn't do anything major. And so it's just a matter. That's why, like, the emotional oils with Young Living, and especially for sleep at night, are money. I mean, like they literally will save marriages and save lives because, like, being able to take a Valor or a Peace and Calming or, heck, just a lavender, I mean, if you can even say that, like frankincense, whatever, Valor, like, I love Harmony Blend. Like, one of my favorites, Harmony and
Which
Awaken
one?
are like two of
Oh.
Harmony. Yeah, I love Harmony. And I love Awaken. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Whichever one you like, and putting a couple drops in your hand and literally like breathing it in through your nose, like actually putting it on, breathing through and letting your body let go of the day is so important, because that way you're not carrying it to the next day and you're not beating yourself up about it at night. Like, it's literally like that whole, like, throwing everything you have at the foot of the cross. It's that every night. It's like, dude, that day's done. I'm done with it. I have to dump it, or I'm going to keep stacking rocks in this backpack. And I can only carry that backpack for so long. And eventually I'm going to crater, I'm going to hit my knees, or I'm going to go off in a river and that backpack's too heavy and I'm going to sink and I can't get out because you're not unloading those rocks every single night, right? So that's really key, and that's a big deal. And the nice thing, I mean, even Dr. Ollie Wanker and I have taught together several times, and the guy's just a flipping genius, and he has brain scans where he'll show that. He's like, look, like, people are like, I don't know that they really do that. And he'll go, watch, and he'll hook himself up to a brain scan and go, and he'll breathe in oil, and he goes, and it lights up on the computer, like right there, like right then. And he's shown it. I mean, it really, really actively and immediately, within like instant seconds, fires those parts of the nervous system and reduces stress and lights up those areas of the brain to be able to kind of like troubleshoot the issue and stuff, right? So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I mean, there's little rabbit trails on this that are necessary, and I think that's key. And sleep is so important. And for me, I mean, here's a personal testimony on that. So for when I was in grad school, right, in chiropractic college, it was the first time in my life that I ever realized that I wasn't the smartest person in the room, that I really got my teeth kicked in, right? Like I really went, and my pride got like punched in the face. And I went in there, and I'm with the best of the best from the world in this organization, in this education setup. And I realized that, like, there were tests that I studied. One test I studied for 47 hours for, literally, and I barely got a C, and I was thankful. Like, I was like, whoop, because most people failed it. It was that kind of thing. So the stress level and the need to perform, because I was raised in a home where they loved us, for sure. I mean, that was never a doubt. But if you lost, they didn't like it. And if you lost the whatever athletic event or whatever thing you were doing, man, they didn't say they didn't love you, but you just knew that you'd better win and you'd better be all state or all nation or whatever. And so I was all growing up, and I was taught that performance equaled acceptance my entire life. Some of you guys need to hear this. Some of you guys, and Young Living is hard on this because there's ranks. And so there's carrots in front of you the whole time through, and you base your worth and you base your stress and you let your hormones get jacked up because you've been at silver for 2 years. I don't know why I'm going off on this, but I think someone needs to hear it. Like, you've been on silver for 2 years and you freak out and you ruin your hormones and ruin your health because you think you need to be at diamond. You got to let that go. Like, and you got to get over the need to perform. I even had one of our other diamond leaders. The number one thing I love about this company are the people. Like, I got so many good friends and people and accountability partners across the globe because of this company. And so I text 4 YO leaders. All of them are Diamond Plus. And I texted them. I said, hey, I'm going for physical therapy today. I need you to pray for this. And one of them, she literally texted me. She goes, make sure before you walk in, you lay down your need to perform. She goes, I know you. She goes, you do not have to do this right. You don't have to be the strongest. You don't have to be the best. Get in there and freaking get it done. I'm like, thank you. And it goes back to that whole school thing. Well, in school, I developed the ability, and I was super proud of this. And one of my teachers even pretty much said it was fine. I developed the ability to survive in school and do well and like really knock it out on less than 3 hours of sleep a night. And we could teach you why neurologically that was accurate, because we were hitting the circadian rhythms right, and we had the sleep cycles mapped out, and I was doing hour-and-a-half increments and blah, blah, blah. We knew all the reasons why neurologically it wasn't like the best, but it was pretty good. So we literally, like me and my study partner would sleep in half-hour increments, and we would make sure that we got at least an hour and a half at a time twice, so that we got 3 hours a night. That was it, 3 hours a night. And I carried that in until this year, really, until the injury. And I literally had only slept over the last 14 years because I trained myself to this. Like, people were always like, I don't know how you do so much stuff. I don't know how you blog so much. I don't know how you record all these videos. I was like the Howard Hughes syndrome of like never sleeping and never being able to turn it off. That was me until March, when the Lord swept my feet out from under me, literally. And when I came home and I have to be on my back and I have to be in a wheelchair for 6 months, no weight on this leg, all of a sudden I didn't need to get up. I didn't need to go anywhere. I could go to bed when I wanted. Now, if I don't get 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night, I feel like junk the next day. I mean, it really has changed my whole thing. And I really am 100% convinced it's why my healing has been really quick and it's going good, is because, and why I've lost weight, like my muscle tone is better. And I have not been working out that much. I mean, it's not like I'm doing all this crazy stuff. Literally, like the guys, I went to convention and one of my buddies was like, dude, you've lost weight. You look awesome. What have you been doing? I go, sleeping. That was it. And I literally have lost like 15, 20 pounds because I quit destroying my adrenal glands and destroying my hormones at night and acting like it was a good thing, right? Like I taught my patients to do this. I literally would teach them that this was okay as long as it was 3 hours or 4.5. So look, now the difference in me being able to really sleep is key. Your healing is key for this. Sometimes there's seasons where it's not possible. I mean, we got little babies, and so that's not always possible. But being able to like get in a nap or do something to sleep is key. So that is huge. It's another big deal. Oils to really help with hormone balancing, because the major issue for women is, well, I'm going to say that's women and men, like pretty much across the globe. The number one hormone imbalance issue is estrogen dominance. Like it's pretty much like the estrogen's too high in everybody. So you figure, okay, well, if they're a female, now watch this. This is pretty crazy. So estrogen is high in everyone, right? And there's like 3 or 4 different ways that you can get high estrogen. All right. You can just produce too much. Like you can just like your ovaries overproduce estrogen and you have too much. That happens. That's not very often, but that happens. The other thing that can happen, which is more common, is you have too little progesterone. Like your progesterone levels are through the floor. So in comparison, if your estrogen's here, then if your progesterone's here, your estrogen is high. Even if it was in normal ranges, relative to your progesterone, it's high. Does that make sense? So your body creates symptoms that is estrogen dominant. It's an estrogen dominant system, even if your body's not producing too much. That's the second way. The third way is if you are toxic with chemical estrogens, like if you're still using Christian Dior perfume or you're hosing your husband down with Hugo Boss, you're basically like turning him into a hormonal woman. I mean, like it's legit, like you're spraying estrogen in his face. If you use Febreze around the house, estrogen, it's a xeno hormone. And if you think they don't understand how this works, then you're really sweet. And I totally want you to come babysit my kids, but you're wrong. Like, because they understand how this works and they're in it to win it and they're in it to make money. So, Febreze, Pine Sol, like all the things that you clean your house with, estrogen compounds, fertilizers, all the stuff in the yard, like the things that you would normally, like all of those have, chemical hormones in them, and it will drive one hormone pathway, estrogen, every time. Estrogen, estrogen, estrogen. Now, the fourth way that you can develop estrogen dominance, and this is very prevalent nowadays, and I don't have time to go into this really tonight, but I mean, this is a thing that Sharnael can totally teach you on some of this too, is if you have a genetic mutation called MTHFR. So if you have a genetic mutation that looks like a bad word abbreviation, that will make it to where a woman with an MTHFR mutation cannot detox estrogen. So when she produces the estrogen she needs, instead of her body being able to cycle it right on out, it just stays. And so it's like, you know, I don't know, it's like you're on an assembly line and there's nobody taking stuff off the end and it just piles up. That's what happens. You get estrogen dominance. So here's what happens. Look at this, and then we'll talk about products and stuff, and we'll take questions from you guys. Here's what happens. Look at this. Like estrogen dominance in teenage girls. So here. Let's start with that, and we'll go up, and then we'll start with boys. High estrogen will cause a female to go into her menstrual cycle earlier than she should. So it's the girls that are going into their menstrual cycle at 2, 3, 4. You heard me right. 2 years old, 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old. They're starting their menstrual cycle. It's the truth. They don't talk about it. It's a massive epidemic. The average, across the country, they still say is 12, but that is bogus. The youngest I ever had in my office was a 2-year-old little girl that was growing breasts and had menstrual bleeding, like she had started her cycle because of estrogen. Okay, so the girls will start earlier. Their cycles will be heavier. They will have massive bleeding. They will have months and months and months where they never stop bleeding. They have the massive cramping. They have massive breast tenderness. They have massive headaches. They basically learn from day one to hate their monthly menstrual cycle when it is the thing that gives them life and gives them ability to make life. Like your menstrual cycle is the way as a woman, like as a woman, do you understand, like as a female, and I know Sharnael's taught on this, as a female, you are the only one who has the power to literally carry and give life. Like to be able to carry a child, whether you do or not, like to have that ability is beyond any other physiological ability on any mammal, any created thing on earth, ever, 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 ever. Like it's insanely amazing. It's a system that blows my mind every time. It's a miracle every time it happens, and it is incredible. And you have that ability because you're a female. Okay, now, when they allow or life happens and their menstrual cycle gets jacked up from day one, we teach these girls to hate it, like to literally loathe that time of the month when it is their superpower. You just see what I'm saying? Like it's so backwards and it's so jacked up to me, and it breaks my heart for them because they come in crying that they know it's about to start, and I'm like, this is backwards. Like you should be like beating your chest and walk around going, dude, I can do what you can do, but you can't do what I can do. You know what I'm saying? Like that's insanely amazing, and it's completely messed up because of environment and because of what we put girls through. Now, for an adult woman, estrogen dominance creates PCOS. It creates bleeding. It creates infertility. It creates miscarriage. Blah 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 blah. It creates early menopause. On and on and on. Early aging, like all this stuff. Okay. Now in men, watch this. Men. When men have high estrogen, which is massive. Oh, and like estrogen dominance creates estrogen dominant cancers in women, like uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, breast cancer. Would you know that the number one rising population with breast cancer in America is men? Like men are the number one fastest rising statistic for breast cancer in America. You don't see that on the Federalist.com. Like you don't see that on the news. You don't see any of that. Like you just see, like there's somebody else that got breast cancer, like whatever, Susan G. Komen, blah, blah, whatever. No, like men are the number one most rapidly rising population for breast cancer. And here's why. Because estrogen affects men even more than it does women because we ain't supposed to have that much estrogen. Like men are really simple. We need testosterone. I mean, like, we need testosterone for muscle development. We need testosterone to feel like a man, to act like a man, to make decisions like a man, to lead like a man, to literally like take the actual mantle that God gave men. And I taught this last weekend to leaders, like the top leaders in YL. If a man is called to be a leader and his testosterone is low, he will not choose it. He will not pick it up because he can't. Because he doesn't even know what to do. Because testosterone changes his entire identity if it's low. Okay, now, estrogen. If you pump estrogen into a dude, like you stress him out, you take him away from physical activity, you don't have sex with him, sorry, but it really does matter. Like you don't do all those things, you belittle him, you tell him he's not worth anything, whatever. Like you berate him because you think it gets stuff done. All of those things increase estrogen and decrease testosterone because you're stressing his system out, and you will shut his testosterone levels down, and it'll make it harder for him to even balance hormones. Now, and guys, watch this. If you increase estrogen in young kids, boys, right, they will start their puberty cycle later. So in girls, it's opposite effect. In girls, it hyperfires their estrogen. They'll start their menstrual cycle early, and it's like horrible symptoms. For dudes, They have like feminine characteristics. They won't build muscle tone well. They're really like wimpy looking boys. Like they're always like, oh, he's just so cute. He's a mama's boy. Maybe. I mean, like, there's that. Maybe that. Maybe his testosterone's low. I mean, like, not being funny about it or anything. Like when they go, oh, like he hates. If they tell me that there's a boy that hates being rough, is really overly sensitive all the time, likes to be in the kitchen with mom all the time, never wants to do anything, never wants to wrestle, never wants to go throw a ball, and he's like just little for his age, 100 times out of 100, I go estrogen dominance. Like that kid has estrogen issues that's lowering his testosterone. That's just not normal. It's not like we're not supposed to be emotional and like nice. That's not it. It's there's certain things that are normal for boys and guys because our testosterone is supposed to be higher. Like we're supposed to be the ones that go and like tackle the buffalo and kill it and bring it home. Like that's because our hormones are made that way. That's our Paleolithic design, right? It's not that like there's some women that could do it better than us. That's legit. Like that's totally true. But they're the exception to the rule, not the rule. Just like there's some guys. I'm more emotional than Cindy, than my wife. Like I'm way more empathetic and like really like emotionally engaged than she is. I'm not the norm on that. Like she is more the like left brain setup, like you would think of like when you talk to a dude. That's not norm. So you look at boys, estrogen dominance will slow them down as they get into high school. Watch this. Once their puberty starts and they had estrogen dominance the whole time, now the body's going to play catch up. Now you have these underdeveloped boys that get this huge flood, and those boys usually have some kind of anxiety and depression. They have social anxiety, something. Like there's something that comes up. Oh, he's just really sensitive and he has anxiety. Or his hormones are off. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not getting what he needs. That kid hits puberty and the testosterone goes through the roof and he becomes a literal walking sex-addicted rageaholic. Because when the testosterone goes through the roof, it blows their brain up. Like they can't handle it. And they're the kids, like, why do you think that pornography addiction is so prevalent in high schoolers, other than the fact that you could touch your phone and it's going to show up on your phone? Like, you know, you could literally, like, sneeze on your phone, shake it wrong, and, you know, pornography shows up. Like, that's scary, just the culture we're in. But why do you think that that's such an easy pitfall for guys? Like, I think the statistics are 85 to 90% of teenage guys have either peddled with or are addicted to pornography by the time they graduate high school. Come on, people. Like that is completely messed up. And it's scary because that kid that goes off into college and whatever else he does is going to end up marrying a girl who was hoping for her knight in shining armor, and she got this broken dude, right? Which all of you did. I mean, that married a guy, but still, like, they had to go through so much stuff to be able to get through that kind of stuff, right? So that's an estrogen issue. So let's talk about, does that make sense? Like, Sharnael, did I explain that well? Like, do y'all see?
Yes.
I like showing, like, the severity of it because I feel like it's like, well, here's the thing, like, you know, like What the Health, the documentary. They literally basically told you if you ever ate bacon and an egg, you were gonna die like right then within minutes. And so that's not true. Like that's called fear mongering. But in a healthy way, like understanding severity and a problem to where you go, dude, I don't want that, and understanding where stuff comes from, it causes you to take action quicker. So if you go, man, the estrogen issues could be the reason why my fertility's been off, could be the reason why my kid like says he hates me when I know he doesn't. Like he's saying those things, but he's literally out of his head. He cannot control himself. He's not being himself. That's a hormone issue. See what I'm saying? And so that's why I just like talking about it.
Yeah, so and I want to jump in here too because you touched on like the Febreze and the cleaning supplies and what have you about jacking things up. It's not just an estrogen deal where everything shoots up, but they basically are hormone disruptors. So all the hormones are disrupted. And you talked about a little bit about what some of the side effects are with the late testosterone surges or whatever. They've done documented scientific, there's evidence now that actually supports where confusion of gender has been tested now.
Hormones.
Why is it all of a sudden that girls are attracted to girls, guys are attracted to girls? I mean, I'm not, and no judgment at all whatsoever. Like, I love everybody. And I'm just saying, you know, where people have said, yeah, but she was born that way. She was feeling that already from when she was 2 years old, or as soon as she remembered, or as soon as he remembered, or whatever. But here's where you got to get it. The parents also participated in hormone disruptors. And they're finding that people who are having children now, they'll test the umbilical cord right there with just moments of being bored, and they can find up to 200 chemicals in the umbilical cord right away from a baby that just came out. So,
Yep.
whether it's before they got here and it's been in the DNA somehow from the past on, but like all the cleaning supplies, shampoos, makeup, he's right, Febreze shampoos, hairsprays, bleaches, Pine Sol, all the things that we grew up on that now we can replace. And I know you're going to get to that, but I just wanted to throw that in there too, because I'm the last person to have any judgment on that, but not just where there's a surge and people maybe getting, their beard later on in life, but this can affect people from being a small child to be confused early. Why do you think that there's such confusion going on in the world right now, more than there ever has before, on gender identity? It's not a coincidence. It's not just curiosity, although I do believe that some people are just curious, and there's probably people who just think it's cool because Madonna did it or whatever. But then there's legit reasons where people really don't want to grow hair or don't choose to be in a situation where they're thinking about other women, or men are thinking about men. There are legit people who just wish they didn't have those feelings, but they're confused because the hormones are confusing them. Hope that helps a little bit. Are you there? Okay, cool. Oh, sound? Can you hear me? We can't hear you. Oh, wait. Hey, I can't hear you. Hey, Jim Bob. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? The sound went out. Let's see. Oh, wait. Can you guys hear? We can't hear you. Hold on, guys. I'm going to invite him back in real quick. Invite back in. I'm inviting. Is this helping you guys?
Weird.
All right, we're back. Is this helping you guys? Are you guys with us? Okay, good. All right, go ahead.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry, I was literally like, oh, maybe I'll charge my phone. I stick it into the stupid thing on my car, and then it like shuts off my speakers and everything. I'm like, oops, that was not good. So word to the wise, don't do that. Okay, so hopefully that kind of gives you guys some starting point and you understand it. Now let's talk about products that are real support your system. And here's one thing I really want you to understand too. Like, don't get frustrated when you really start working with your hormones, doing natural stuff. It takes longer. It's not an overnight success with everyone. Some people do. Like, some people are like, I had an ounce of Nixia Red and now I'm like perfect. That happens. That's not the norm. Like, that's not usual. So, like, just know that if you sniff Idaho Blue Spruce and you don't become the manliest man ever, it's fine. Like, you just got to keep doing it. And like, naturally supporting the body is consistency. Like, consistency of just really supporting and giving it what it needs, and it will do what it's created to do every time, as long as we have all of our organs we need and we don't damage everything beyond repair. Okay, I'll talk about the hysterectomy stuff here in just a second. So top oils to support hormones for women, right? Top oil blends to support hormones in women. Other things for adrenal glands like nutmeg, energy, those are great.
Are you
Other
here?
oil blends.
Okay. Wait. You're kind of coming in and out. Last thing I heard was top oil blends for women.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Top oil blends for women. Okay, so we talked about the Endoflex for adrenal glands. You also have nutmeg and energy are both really good adrenal supporters. But for hormone balancing, clary sage is one that really helps promote normal estrogen release. Now, remember, I get asked this all the time. Hey, I am a survivor of estrogen dominant cancer. I can't use anything that could possibly promote estrogen. Absolutely true for something that is synthetic. They will like run from lavender because it is a phytoestrogen. They'll run from all this stuff. They'll run from clary sage. I'm like, you know what? Like, when in doubt, leave it out. That is the first rule. Like, when in doubt, if you don't have peace about it, then don't do it. I don't care who you are or who tells you to do it. I don't care if Sharnael's like, this is going to be the thing and you cannot get peace about it. Don't do it. I don't care if I'm like standing over you going, use your Endoflex and you don't have peace about it. Don't do it. Like, just don't use it. But clary sage helps to regulate estrogen. So, meaning like it's an adaptogen essential oil. So sometimes girls that are higher, it helps to regulate back in the middle. Sometimes if they need more, it helps to bring it back up. So you just have to kind of try it. And this is more trial and error and teaching girls and women to really understand their cycle, understand how they feel during their cycle, understand that a lot of it's normal, and not to like smash all the symptoms down before they get through their cycle, but like they're afraid of it. Like, oh my gosh, I get like breast tenderness, boom, like let's take a med. Oh my gosh, I've got this, boom, and they literally play whack-a-mole with symptoms, and that's just not healthy. So clary sage is great. Progestins Plus is a great blend to help to naturally regulate and increase progesterone. The problem with it is, since it is a serum, like I said earlier, it has a wild yam complex in it. Just know that you can take too much. You can do too much of it. Like, you can use too much of it and your body can get primed to it, and it can kind of push you like too far. Like, you can produce too much progesterone or testosterone, and so it'll amp you up. And so the way that I can normally tell is if I have a female come in and she walks in and I've had her on Progestins Plus and she's like, and she's like mad. Like, I just want to kill everybody, and she just cannot control it. I'm like, you need to back away from the Progestins Plus for a little bit. And we just let them take a break on it. And then they're fine. I'll talk about postmenopausal in just a second, Linda. Sclerescence is fantastic. It's another one that really helps with estrogen balancing. Sclerescence is one that is really good during menopause. Now, let's talk compliance for a second. So, like, here's what you cannot say. Hey, you have PCOS. You need to take this. That's non-compliant. You can't do that. You can say, hey, this essential oil helps to regulate normal estrogen levels. Like, you should try this to help support your body. You can say that. Now, here's what you also can say. Hey, you're in menopause. You should try sclerescence, because menopause is not a diagnosis. Menopause is a time period in a woman's life that she's supposed to go into. Like, every woman is supposed to go into menopause between the ages of 55 and 65, like closer to 65, should be. Lots of you are younger than that, and you're already in menopause, just is what it is. Welcome to America. And so they're supposed to be later. That is normal. It's a normal process, but it shouldn't be hell. Like, it shouldn't be crazy. We'll talk about it in just a second. And so, like, Abby's asking too. Everybody's like, what about menopause? I promise I'll touch on it. So sclerescence is good. Dragon Time is another great oil blend to really help with hormone balancing. I love it, period, because I never see that one drive someone too far. Like, at the very worst, they just don't feel a lot of change on it, but it never makes them feel worse. And I love that about it. It's a really great one to be able to utilize yourself or to recommend, so that someone can get a slow feed into supporting their body and supporting their hormones with oils, but it doesn't freak them out, right? Other supplements, Estro is a tincture. It's got royal jelly in it. There's a couple different things it's got in there. It's a liquid. I haven't taken it, so I can't tell you how it tastes. Sharnael, I don't know if you tried it, Estro.
Gross, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's good for you. It's kind of like mineral essence. It's like, you just do it because it's good. And so Estro is a good one. People ask me about Master Formula all the time. I'm not a giant multivitamin proponent. That's just not the kind of like nutrition I normally push for people. But it is a fact that the majority of people are undernourished, and they're not getting all the minerals and the nutrients they need. So unfortunately, we've pretty much worked ourselves into a situation where Master Formula is probably necessary, and it's really good. I mean, I do like it as a product. I just would rather see you taking more multigreens and drinking Ningxia, because you're going to get a ton of like whole food nutrition out of that, and out of your diet, and eating good salads and eating good like hormone-free meats and all that, like cage-free eggs and stuff like that, than having to take Master Formula. But you do what you got to do, and it is a really good product. Okay. All right. So let's talk about your GER patients. How long do you recommend a break from Progestins Plus? Like 2 days. Whitney, it normally only takes a day or two, and then they're like ready to go, and they're good to go. And you just go less drops. Like, instead of one lady came in, and again, like, people just go ahead and assume that your members and your people on your downline are going to use the product wrong. Like, just assume that's going to happen. Don't assume that they're going to do it correctly. Always start slow with them. Always start with a little bitty amount. I had this lady come in, and she was using something like 36 drops a day. Like, literally. And I was like, And she was freaking out. I was like, I don't think you need that much. Like, most of my women do great with like 4 to 10 drops a day. Like, if that's plenty. She was doing like 36 drops, and I was like, oh, I know why you're angry. I know why people think you're angry. And so we changed her off of that, and she got really chirpy and happy all of a sudden. It was really good. But let's talk about menopause real quick, because a lot of you guys have asked about this. Do you realize that America is the only country on Earth, only single country on Earth, that has the symptoms and the problems with menopause that we do? Like, nobody else. I mean, maybe Japan or some of them, but it's still not like what we do, just because they're so stressed out too. But like, not like ours. Like, statistically, like the menopause, hormone problems and heat flashes and like all the different stuff that goes along with like menopause that you would think about. That's an American thing. And the reason is because the majority of all Americans, especially women, have adrenal fatigue. And the organ that is singularly responsible for holding your hand and skipping into menopause, and everywhere I go, I say this at every single event if I'm going to teach on hormones and I teach on menopause, and they laugh at me like they want to laugh me off the stage. I go, you should celebrate going into menopause. And they're like, psycho. Like, and they're like, this dude, he's a guy. He has no idea. I go, no, I get it. I totally understand. I've worked with and treated thousands of women in menopause. I get the process. I understand the process better than you guys do, and you're women, and that's sad, honestly, but I do. But the reason is because you have adrenal fatigue, and your adrenal glands aren't ready for the challenge. And so you get into menopause, and the adrenal glands are supposed to hold you up. They're supposed to be like, the Aaron holding your arms up in the middle of the battle, and you got nothing. And so you go into it, and your hormones go boom, and they tank, and now they're all over the place. And then you end up on artificial hormone replacement therapy, blah, 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 blah. Rates of uterine and ovarian cancer go through the roof, yada, yada, yada. And there you go. And then we just have American statistics, right? So, Linda, should I use Progestins Plus or Sclerescence? Yes. Like, honestly, both of them are amazing. You just have to try them. Here's what I suggest. If you're in menopause age, you try Sclerescence first. And because you need normal estrogen going into menopause, like the estrogen tanking is one of the problems, because you need a little bit. It's just that the ovaries naturally stop doing it. If you had a hysterectomy, then you medically are in menopause. It's medically caused, like it's surgically induced menopause. That's what it is. And so you need estrogen like normal. And catch this, because I want you guys to understand this. Your body would naturally go into menopause between the ages of 55 and 65, like every woman's body. Maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit, but like between 55 and let's say 70, like most all women should naturally go into menopause. If you have artificially been sent into menopause because you ended up having a surgery or whatever happened and it had to happen that way, and you got sent into menopause at the age of 35, like watch how this works. Your body was mentally, neurologically, hormonally, age-wise, not ready to go into menopause. So it is very possible, and I'm not saying this to be a Debbie Downer, so please don't take this like, oh, there's no hope for me. That's not it at all. It's just I want you to understand how vital it is for you to really be supporting your system and work on it. You could have 30 years on your hands to get you to the 65 age mark when your body was ready to go into menopause, to where it mentally, neurologically allows you to catch up with the surgery that they did to you at 30. Unfortunately, that's just reality. Okay. Renee went in at 40. Okay. That's way young. Like, that shouldn't happen. It does. If you go into menopause on your own earlier than you should, it's because of toxicity, and it's because of all those environmental estrogens. That's been proven and shown. So Renee, like for you too, it's like, okay, look, like we need to get on that, and we need to work on it, and we need to really get going with it. So the adrenal glands are number one. Like, you use your Endoflex. Here's another adrenal trick that works really great. Idaho balsam fir, okay, in capsules. Yep. Idaho balsam fir in capsules, right? We'll pretend that I said Vitality. I'm not holding a bottle, so we're just going to pretend Vitality. The Idaho balsam fir in capsules, though, is incredible, okay? What about men with all the sinus issues, tired and frustrated? Then with men, let's talk about that for a second. They all need to work on their adrenal glands. That's true. They all need to do an aroma freedom technique session or something to be able to get their feelings out and to be able to work on stuff. That's huge. They need physical activity. Men need to move. Like, men need to lift things. Men need to move heavy things. There's never a man that was better hormonally when he didn't move. Okay, like that's key. The other thing for men is testosterone is key, and protein levels are key. The more sugar a man eats, the lower his testosterone goes, because refined sugar drives up estrogen because it stresses your adrenal glands out over time. So the average American, and let's just say the average American dude, which is, I mean, the average American, listen to this is heartbreaking and infuriating. The average American eats over 150 pounds of sugar a year. That's average. So that's like the good person. Like the dude that comes in and doesn't care at all and drinks like a 6-pack of beer every night, and which is tons of sugar, and they eat like donuts every day at work, and they're doing all this stuff and they never move. That dude may be eating 250 pounds of sugar, or 400 pounds of sugar. That's very possible. Being able to reduce the amount of artificial and processed sugar and increase good proteins, whether it's from a vegetable source or a meat source, if it's clean, is key to be able to balance his testosterone out. Okay, Idaho blue spruce, great essential oil in this. We've got studies to show it rising. We can't show them to you, but we've got the studies to prove it. The ultimate is to do it in a capsule and to do it topically. But honestly, like if you can get a guy to just put it on, you're doing good, right? And then have him add in Ningxia Red, because it balances blood sugar, and Power Jais and Omega Jais. I mean, he needs the fat, so if he's going to take it, just put it in his hand and tell him, say, you will take these supplements, and I will physically help you balance your hormones more if you take your supplements, because you're doing what you're told, and you're nicer. You do what I ask. You take the trash out because you just want to, and this is what happens. And if you do all those things, I'm going to be like a rock star for you in bed, which is another thing for men that really balances hormones. So listen to this. This is key. And I don't just say this because this is a guy. If Cindy was sitting right here, she'd be like, it's true. For women, sex is mainly emotional and spiritual. There is hormonal balancing that goes on, for sure. There's a physical component to it, for sure. But the bulk of it is a covenant. It's a recovenant. It's a spiritual act. It's 100% mental, neurological, and spiritual. Okay. That's why, like, women will say all the time that they are more aroused by a guy just being nice than actually having sex. Like, the sex itself is not necessarily for all women. Like, some women love it, and that's awesome, but not all, right? Now, for men, here's the thing. There's a reason why men crave sex all the time. Now, watch this. The guy that wants sex every single day isn't necessarily the guy with the highest testosterone in the room. I tested a guy out this week who you would think would be the beast of all beasts. This guy's like manly of all men. And he comes into my office, and I'm like, dude, this guy's got to be jacked. He's like, I asked for sex multiple times a day, and I tested his testosterone out. Normal testosterone in men for the ages of 30 to 50 should be over 600. Like, they should go in and get a blood test. It should be 600 or above. Like, if you can get it up close to 900, that's awesome. He was at 160, and he's like in his 20s, and he's a power lifter. Now, why do you think? Let's think about this. Why do you think? And his wife was like, oh. And here's the deal with this. Wives that don't understand this process, because I've talked to you guys across the country, think that your husband is being perverted and insensitive when they need it to even produce the hormones that they need. They're literally, like, it sounds awkward, but they're using you to help keep them sane and normal, which is the biggest honor and blessing ever. But it's also frustrating if they don't understand that there's a lot of things that they need to do or that they can do to help their hormones. So, this wife of this guy was like, you're serious? Like, there's a hormone reason why he literally, like, begs for it all the time. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, look. And so for her, she was like, oh, she goes, that gives me so much grace for him, because she goes, I thought he was just being a jerk. She goes, I thought he was just being insensitive. And I was like, no, that's not it. Like, he really needs it to balance his hormones, because it's an instant reset for guys. So, like, you just got to remember, because a guy's hormones turn over every 24 hours. Like, it's like a guy's testosterone's highest in the morning, and it tanks by evening. Highest in the morning, tanks by evening. That's why if you ask a guy to do stuff for you and you need things done in the evening, he's not going to do it as quickly, easily, or happily as he will do it if you ask him in the morning once he's had his coffee and he's fed, right? Like, it's just the truth, because the testosterone's different, and he will choose. He has the right amount of neurotransmitters to choose to be happy and awesome for you. So set him up right. Like set him up. Like, make sure he's getting plenty of protein. Make sure he gets his good fats in. Let him get good sleep at night. And if like, you would rather be intimate at night, like, switch it to the morning a few days a week or something like that, because it really does change it for him. Or ask him things in the morning. Wait to talk about stuff until the morning. because hormonally he's going to be way more apt to be caring and open about it. There you go. There's relationships 101 in 3 minutes from Jim Bob based on hormones. I don't know. So, so what other questions, or Sharnael, what else do you want me to add in, or what do you want to talk about?
Actually, I'm going to jump into when you talked about the Endoflex, the best place to put it is right on top of the kidneys. You just get a couple drops right here. Your kidneys are right back here. You can't see my back, but lower back right here. That's your back, and just set them right there. Also, doing it on your toes is a good idea, or the bottom of your feet. But you can actually, when I put it on, I usually do it in the morning, and I feel like taller. Like there's something about it that just has a different kick by putting that on. You can put it right on the thyroid as well. For those of you who definitely are looking for support with the thyroid, because the adrenals and the thyroid work together. If you have a thyroid issue, it's because the adrenals already gave up. And so instead of going to get on a Synthroid, if you get on a Synthroid, it's going to do its job. You can OD, like we talked about pharmaceuticals. Anything that you do, if you take too much, it's going to do its job. You can OD. You could, if you take just enough, synthetic anything, first of all, causes a war in your body. And so your body immediately sees anything synthetic as a foreign object, and it starts a war. It starts building antibodies to say, hey, we're going to war. We want this out. It tries to hack the system and find the code. And so you can build up an immunity to it, and then you don't need it anymore. But if you do something that's not synthetic, that's completely natural, then anything that you do plant-based is obviously going to come in, and your whole body is going to be like, oh, thank you for coming. We've been waiting for you. Awesome. But when you do Thyromin, that is a way that you can help support the thyroid.
Yes.
I take it, you could take it in the morning for the adrenals. Make sure if you're working both, you want to do Thyromin in the morning, and then you want to take Thyromin to support the thyroid at night. And the way you have to take that, I say at night, not meaning like right before you go to bed and you're starting to get sleepy-ish because your adrenal fatigue, you're not going to get tired, but not when you take it at like 8 and then you're going to go run and do the dishes and you still got to do this, and you're going to, then you get to bed, you watch TV for 2 hours, you remember you got to do something on your computer, you got one more load of clothes. That's not when you do it, because that's going to feed the adrenals. We've already fed the adrenals. That's awesome. We need some help and support to the thyroid. So you want to take the Thyromin before you go to bed, like literally before the lights are going out, because then everything shuts down and it can go into the proper place instead of going to the adrenals. One thing I want to add to, actually 2 more things, talking about stress and cortisols, all the citruses, lime, lemon, citrufresh, orange, all of these have natural flavonoids in them, which block cortisol. So if you can drink you could drink lemon, orange, lime, all of these, put it in your water and drink it, and you're going to have a stress-less day, because you're not going to be pumping out all that stuff. It's going to block all that stuff for you. And
that citrus oil also helps to break down the petrochemicals that you build up in your fat just from toxic stuff you come in contact with that attaches to estrogen. And so when it gets all that out, it allows you to naturally lower your estrogen just by getting that junk out of your system.
Yes, good. And 2 more things I wanted to add. ImmuPro, we talked about sleep. I know he's about to have to go. ImmuPro was a lifesaver for me. I didn't even know. If you need to sleep,
it's awesome.
Yes, I didn't even know, because it's called ImmuPro. Gary had sent it to us before we went overseas to Amman, and he said, take this for 3 weeks, and a bunch of other stuff he gave us. And I thought it was for immunity, because he said, take all these things. It was about $1,000 worth of stuff. He said, take all this stuff before you go overseas, because they have different bugs over there and blah, blah, blah. So I was taking it at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon while I was working.
We're right
and you got to go? You're good?
No, she's just talking to me.
Okay.
I go, hey, you want to say hi? And she's like, no.
Oh, okay.
Difference in how we are.
Yes. So I was taking Immune Pro at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because I had it right next to my desk. And by 4 o'clock, I was like gone. And I mean, like pregnancy gone, and had no idea why. I thought, oh my God, I got to be pregnant or something's going on. And it wasn't until we jumped countries, got there, and we're trying to get back into the time zone with present time and all this stuff. And Gary's like, hey, everyone, let's stay up all day till we go to sleep tonight. And then right before you go to bed, don't forget to take your Immune Pro to reset all your, rhythms and everything with sleep. And I was like, why would you take MU-Pro for that? And then he's like, because it helps you sleep. And it's just like, oh, so that's why when I was taking it at 3 o'clock, I was like gone by 4:30 or 4 o'clock. So get that MU-Pro in. I usually take about 8 or 9 o'clock. So by 9:10, I'm sleeping, because here's another key: from 10 to 12. If you can be sleeping from 10 to 12, it's like you're getting 4 hours of sleep instead of 2 hours of sleep, because the 10 to 12 is a big healing period for your body. And most
Sure.
people are totally awake from 10 to 12. They're not taking advantage of that healing time. So I just want to throw those things in. Go for it. Keep going.
No, that's huge. And it is true on the thyroid, like, not to even leave it out, but the thyroid and the adrenal glands are best buddies and they work hand in hand. So if you have adrenal issues, you got thyroid problems, but it's not because you have a thyroid issue. It's just because everything's out of balance, but it does need that support. Thyromin's really cool because it has support for the pituitary gland, the adrenal glands, the thyroid, everything in it. It's a full-on endocrine supporter, but people think it's just for the thyroid, and that's not true. I mean, like Sharnael said, if more people would take it twice a day instead of once at night, they get more support. So that's really key. The thing I'll say, someone said that they don't have a thyroid or their ovaries, anything like that. If you don't have an organ because it was surgically removed, support it as if it's still there.
Yes.
Like, you just pretend, because here's the deal. The neurological pathway is still there. Like, let's say, like, this building that I'm sitting in front of, if someone come out and leveled this building, the place to get to the building is still here. Like, the road to get here is still here. The parking lots are still here. The parking spaces, that building's just gone. That doesn't mean that I can't do stuff to that space right there and enjoy the space, even if the building's gone. And for your body, even though it's not going to be perfect, like, if you don't have your thyroid, it's harder. Like, it's true. Like, they've surgically set up a situation where you need a lot more help. That's just the way it is. But you can still get better support with it. And so do it anyway. Like, you just support it. Like, they ask me all the time, well, I've had mine taken out. I go, so? Like, support it anyway. And they're like, really? Like, here's another thing, the last thing that I'll say, and then I'll see if you guys have any questions. Why do you put the oils over the organ? Why? I mean, if you've heard me teach on this, Janie's heard me teach on this, so she knows this. But why is it that to support the adrenal glands, you rub it over the top of the organ? You know why? The reason that works and the reason that you do it is not because if I touch my throat, the oil goes and hits the thyroid. That's not what happens. Like, it still has to go through the exact same process of any oil. Has to go into the blood supply, go down to your system, get regulated, get sent all over the body, blah, blah, blah. The 20-second, 20-minute, whatever thing. It does that. Now, the reason that you touch it, it is a neurological response. It's called therapy localization. In the healing arts, like when you're touching people with massage or healing therapies or chiropractic or anything else, there's a reason why we're trained to go, hey, Mr. Jones, is your shoulder hurting? Because we see a range of motion problem. I'll touch it. And 9 times out of 10, they go, ow, I didn't really know that hurt. Like, why is it hurting now? And I go, well, it was hurting before. It's just that your body forgot and it covered it up. And the body is so efficient that over time, the body will literally stop focusing on an organ that's not doing its job, or a joint or a muscle or whatever. Like, it will stop doing the thing there, and it will divert the neurological energy somewhere else, because it's like, I ain't got time for that, until you remind it and you go, hey, I want you to work on the thyroid. And the brain goes, what's going on with the thyroid? Oh, yeah. Her T3 levels have been really low and her energy levels have been off. Okay, cool. She's using this, and it's literally you're touching and using a frequency from the oil on that area, which increases neurological supply from the brain. Your brain goes, okay, and works on it more, and it activates that center and turns that organ or that part of the body on. Boom. You can just say, thank you, body. Like, that's awesome. Okay? So, any questions, Sharnael, any other stuff? Because that's really like a good starting point, baseline.
Yeah, I'm going to add too, you touched on the Idaho blue spruce and capsules, and Gary actually says to take 4 to 8 daily for 6 weeks, and that it completely supports all systems to get to a baseline again. But 16 weeks, 4 to 6, you can muscle test.
Yeah, because you guys know why? Like, think about this. Like, think about the frequency of oils. So, rose oil has a frequency of about 370 hertz, 376 hertz, right? And the frequency of the oil matters because the higher the frequency, the better it is at helping the body heal. It's the way with herbs, it's the way with anything. So bad things lower your frequency, good things raise your frequency, right? Idaho blue spruce is the highest frequency oil that we have in the whole collection. The only one that they say, like they claim is higher, but I haven't seen the actual amount, is Northern Lights Black Spruce. But they've never like shown me the study on that. So until I see it, Idaho Blue Spruce is like 440 or 460 hertz. So when you're taking it internally, the reason it helps with every single system and not just testosterone is it's driving your frequency level through the roof to allow your body to kind of reconnect to itself and to know what it needs to work on.
Sorry, my battery's acting like it's gonna quit.
Mine did too, but I plugged in. I figured out how to not lose my speaker, so that's good.
Yeah, also too, pituitary stuff. You talked about pituitary. Frankincense right here will really help support the pituitary to do what it's supposed to do. And I touched on the thyroid medicine. When you take something, not only will you start to get immune to it because of the thyroid building up immunities, but it actually tells your thyroid, hey, stop doing that. You don't have to.
It does its work for it.
Yes. It says, I'm going to do this for you. If someone came to your house and said, hey, I don't want you to have to clean anymore, I'm going to clean your house every week from now on, then you'd be like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm not, come over. And then, but when you stop taking the medicine, it's like the thyroid forgets how to take it, how to do its job. And so what's cool about taking Thyromin is it's just telling you, it's telling your body, hey, remember how to do this, because you should be doing this. It's not taken away, and it's not shutting it down from doing what it's supposed to do. It's just helping your body remember to do what it's supposed to do. So
it's not replacing, it's supporting.
Yes. So all of these things are very important to help with that, with all of that. And excuse me while I'm trying to charge my phone here. But any questions you guys have before we get out of here? I also do want to remind you, next Thursday at the same time, I'm going to be teaching for Jim Bob and his group. Can you tell everybody what your group is about and what it's called?
So I started a group back in the spring called the EOC. It's called the Essential Oil Club. And it's for anybody and everybody in YL. I mean, it's a cross-line group. It's literally just for product education only. And so we have about 184,000 members in there now, which is really insane. And I have guest speakers coming on, which is why I'm getting Sharnael in there. We've had other RCDs and people talking about the history of the company, products, how to use oils with kids, whatever. Like I teach on the systems in there, and it's all just free stuff that you are more than welcome to take advantage of. And so I'll let Sharnael post a link to it in the info or whatever. But yeah, she's going to be live in there next Thursday evening teaching, and it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Did you guys learn anything? You guys, I know you learned a lot, so I'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, so glad you guys are in the EOC.
Yes, I love to hear your feedback. We thank you guys so much. Someone's asking
anything to use instead of Cortistop, Idaho Balsam Fir.
Yes. Yeah.
Cortistop, I'm real leery of. Like I use it, but only in certain situations and only for a little bit of time, because you need that cortisol. That cortisol is the reason you're standing on your feet. So stopping it artificially, even if it's natural, is something you got to really do with someone helping you. That's why it says to do it for a week and then not, or do it for 2 weeks and not. And you got to listen to that. Endogize, you can take it all the time. Endoflex, you don't have to cycle it out. Thyromin, you can take it forever. Like that's not, but Cortistop, you need to really follow that. Sweet. Thank you guys so much for having me on. This has been awesome, and I enjoyed this a ton. So I really appreciate getting to come on and blab for an hour.
Well, thank you very much. And I will talk to you soon about next week. Go be with your family or go eat at your restaurant or whatever. We're sending you love, energy to your leg and to your family.
Thank you.
Away from them. And we appreciate you and your knowledge and what you are and who you are. And thanks again. Bye.
All right. Love you guys. We'll see you later.
Bye. All right. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that. I know I did. You guys follow up with some questions if you have anything. We'd love to hear. I'll do my best to answer anything that I can. I wanted to touch a little bit, just one more thing too, about he mentioned the cologne situation. One thing that I do want to address or choose to address regarding cologne is when you wear the cologne, it doesn't just mess with your hormones, but it also, it changes your pheromones. It disrupts your hormones and also changes your pheromones. So what happens is, let's say you have a certain sound or frequency that's released during certain times of the month or whatever, and you start wearing a cologne, it's going to disrupt what you are, what your sound is, and what you are dispersing. And as you disperse that, you start attracting the opposite of what you really truly should be finding. So you got the guys wearing their cologne, you got the girls wearing their perfume, and it's really interesting how girls, and guys like hook up and meet each other, and they like each other, and this is all great. And then you stop wearing the cologne, and all of a sudden things get real, like when you guys stop. So you can use these oils like a perfume. I mean, it goes into, the scriptures talk about it interchangeably with perfume versus oil. And so use the oils as a daily fragrance, but also that they go on a DNA level to your cells and start doing the work. So I love you guys so much. I appreciate your time. I know we went super over, and I hope that you will tag some people and connect them to this, even if they can watch it a little bit at a time. Please encourage people to come and say, hey, I know it looks a little bit long, but it is so worth it. If you could just get them in to watch it. We only had up to I choose to know how many people were here, but there are so many thousands of people that should be at this call. So, at this class. I love you. I bless you. I will be doing some more videos. Go to my Instagram. Go to my Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook. I've been doing Facebook little jump-ins like every day now on different stuff with reprogramming and frequency. I'm going to be doing ORAC and some other things. So be following me so you can get those notifications. And I think we're good. I love you. Talk soon. All right. Bye-bye.